Greetings, kids. Welcome to the Late Night Picture Show. I'm your host, Murph the Clown. Tonight, I got too many papers here. Part 1 of our Margot Kidder double feature. The Amityville Horror. For God's sake, get out. From the bestseller that made millions believe the unbelievable. Now, if y'all read the book, tell me if you believe the unbelievable. I didn't. We all remember that house, though. The Amityville Horror was a 1979 American international picture starring James Brolin, Margot Kidder, and Rod Steiger. In a story straight from the National Enquirer. I think I even saw about it on the Today Show. But that might have been after the movie kind of blew it up a little bit. Whew. That's stronger straight than I thought it would be. Newlyweds George and Kathy Lutz, played by James Brolin and Margot Kidder, move into their dream house on Long Island with their 3 kids and their big black dog. A dream house in which some grisly murders occurred about a year earlier. Well, everything seems great until Father Delaney, Steiger, stops by to do his holy water and scriptures bit. He finds the family outside, and oddly enough, he just goes into the house with his holy water and his Bible. Priests are allowed to do that, right? It's kind of like a no-knock warrant. I just made that up. Well, the priest is chased out of the house by a bunch of flies. I mean, there's a lot of flies. And a voice says, "Get out." Something like that. They have better special effects in the movie than I have in my show. American International Pictures. Well, he does get out, and so does their aunt, the nun. She finds herself physically sickened by the place. But George and Kathy and the kids stay. They start fixing the place up. And George, James Brolin, he flexes his muscles and chops a lot of wood. As Kathy's brother's wedding approaches, things start getting stranger and stranger. Father Delaney and his sidekick, whose name I don't remember, but he had a sidekick, kind of like Robin. They're determined to rescue the family from the evil house, but are thwarted at every turn by unseen forces and even more evil church authorities. Imagine that. we didn't even know about all the molestation cover-ups and moving pedophile priests from place to place. There were already evil forces in the church. Well, George starts to get sick. More like being taken over by some kind of remoteness, George starts getting a little distant. Nonetheless, the wedding goes on. And while they are there, the girl's imaginary friend locks the babysitter in the closet. They return from the wedding to find general mayhem. Now, there's going to be spoilers here. I'm going to tell you the end because you already know the end. You read the book, you saw the movie, or you've heard about it from someone. So just be prepared. I'm going to tell you what happens. So, general mayhem, like on Ghost Adventures. Flies, smells, cold spots. And it just gets worse as the dog uncovers the gate from hell in the basement. It was either the gate from hell or it was like a septic tank full of used motor oil. I don't know which. George sees the red-eyed pig in the window, this was a lot better in the book. But they did the best they could for 1979. And finally, the family flees in horror. Leaves the house behind. But not without the dog. They bring the dog. Okay. Let's summarize, shall we? This was much scarier when I was 13, but it's still a tense dive into the world of evil spirits. And I reckon if you believe in evil spirits, this is a really tense movie, because you're like, oh shit, this could happen to me. Shades of The Exorcist abound, but even more I noted that we see the beginnings of some other movies, The Shining, as well as Poltergeist. I don't know if they were directly inspired, but the way this was done led into that. You can see it. The allegedly true story is every family's worst nightmare. Unless you can't pay for your house and you need a way out of the loan. Did I just say that? It's a brand new kind of haunted house story. And you've got Margot Kidder. In her prime. And in her skivvies. What more could you ask for? Four. It's a 4-ring circus tonight on the Late Night Picture Show. Now, I got a special treat for you. We're not even on our second movie yet. The Amityville Horror, based on a true story. What does this say? From Michael Bay, the producer of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We'll get to that. That was almost like one of those TikTok things, right? This is the 2005 United spit it out, Murph. United Artist versions. directed by Andrew Douglas. I don't know who Andrew Douglas is, but he's the director, so we'll note him. Amityville. The urban legend that just keeps going. You all know the story. Move into the house, la-di-da. 28 days later. I don't know if I said that, but hey, 28 days later, they flee in horror. The home, which was allegedly brimming with paranormal activity after Ronnie DeFeo Jr. shot his whole family to death there some 13 months earlier. Never mind the allegations of a grand hoax or that none of the more recent residents has been spooked. That's their story and they're sticking to it. Maybe still today. Anyone know? I haven't heard much out of the Lutz family lately, and I believe the house is gone. I admit it's been 20-some years since I read the book, and I probably wrote this in 2005. So it's been more than 20 years. But I don't believe this film came any closer to the facts than the 1979 version and trades the outright religious fear and suspense of that film for a few cheap scares and the same computer effects ghosts which populate every horror film in the last 10 years. You know what I'm talking about? The ghosts that like pop in and out, like fuzzy, like they're on an old TV screen. And they move really fast, like boom, they're there. It was a thing for a while. Don't ask me. Everything is bigger, except George's hair. I mean, how are you going to get bigger hair than James Brolin? Wait, look at this. I might have bigger hair than James Brolin. The house is a mansion this time around, and in a real departure, the babysitter updates from the geeky pre-pube girl with the headgear. You all know the girl. You may have went to school with her. To this teenage sex pot and hip huggers who reveals her Gene Simmons-like tongue and regales the kids with stories of murders before she gets herself locked in the closet. Now, so you got a 20-year-old babysitter instead of a 13-year-old babysitter. Spooking the kids. Making up for the fact that Margot Kidder isn't in the movie. Okay, on its own, this film would stand as a mediocre modern horror movie. But this is yet one more picture, one more remake that just didn't need to be made. God, they're probably working on another one now. It's 2021. What? 2005? That's the old days. We got to get a new one with, like, stars from the Disney Channel that I've never heard of. Before they get in a drug bust or, like, have to resort to porn. Sorry, I'm kind of going off. But you know what I'm talking about. Apparently Hollywood grew tired of ripping off Japan with, like, The Ring, The Grudge, 2, 3, 4, and decided to go back into their own vaults and rip off themselves. House on Haunted Hill, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I told you we'd come back to it. Halloween. Hairspray. Really? The movie's perfect. It doesn't need a remake. You can't make it better by taking Debbie Harry out of it. Or Divine out of it. Anyway, we're not talking about Hairspray, but if we do talk about Hairspray, I'll have some words. Well, here's your best bet. And keep in mind that was written in 2005. There were these things called video stores, and you would go rent a DVD, and you'd pop it in your player. I think there's a DVD right on the side of my computer here. You'd pop it in your computer maybe, and you'd watch the DVD of the movie. You might make yourself some popcorn. Or a drink. Your best bet is to skip past the big chunk of this movie and find the lone copy of the 1979 original. Because this movie is a one-ring remake. It's a one-ring circus here on the Late Night Picture Show. Now, we've covered 2 movies, but stay tuned for our second feature of our double feature, our Margot Kidder double feature, which is the Brian De Palma 1972 classic, Sisters. Be right back, kids.